Hey guys, it's Bill from Linden, Tennessee. Still fighting a good fight here. Had a bunch of good suggestions from y'all. I do appreciate that. A couple comments talking about to fix the side-to-side movement. I could just set up some chains that would run from like that corner down to that corner, vice versa. And that would still allow it to go up and down. That's very true. These diagonals right here kind of do the same thing. And there was some other suggestions. Well, basically, some suggestions that required a little bit of reconfiguring this whole 4-bar system. And I thought the first thing I could do would just be kind of a quick kill is instead of having these pivots back here, move them up further, sort of so that they're in line and underneath these ones. Now I think I've got them a little bit too far, but you know, like I kind of I dropped a straight edge down here and tried to get that aligned, but I think I may have overcooked that a little bit. I don't know, but what I'm gonna save a bunch of drama here. It doesn't work. Something else I did is I moved these pivots up to the actual some holes that are in the frame instead of being on that piece that goes across. There was just a lot of play in that. I wanted something a little more rigid. I'm thinking now that this whole 4-bar thing may not be any good at all, because I can actually pick up on the front, but it takes a lot of effort, and there's kind of an over center that happens with this lower link where the front comes up, and then if it comes up a lot, then these links kind of pop up, and then it's really easy to move. So that may indicate that this needs to go back some. I don't know how much. It could indicate that these pivots need to be higher some, but I don't know how much. This is where, if I had like a 3D modeling software on a computer, that's kind of, I think, where I could help myself a bit with this. But it's not going to work this way. And that's kind of a bummer. So, I don't know what I'm going to do. I could just copy what GE does with their Electrex. What they have, basically this, they've got their chassis is a little bit different. Their front axle is quite a bit back further. But they've got a pivot that's sort of up here on the frame somewhere, and some long bars that go roughly to the middle of their deck, kind of like what I've got going on here. And they've got that little spring in the middle just for some shock absorption, which I could quite easily emulate. Then they've got some little bars that drop down, some bars that drop down and hit these bars and keep these bars from going side to side. So it keeps the deck square. Of course, it can move like this, and of course, it can go up and down. And since there's only 2 pivots, it can follow the train quite easily. They don't have top bars at all. They've got some springs on here that assist they've got an electric winch that pulls up on a strap, which is kind of my inspiration for using a strap. Anyway, they've got these springs on there that sort of assist that, but their motor that they use, their winch, isn't strong enough to hold the deck up and mow. It's just strictly there for transportation. But the winch I'm going to use will be strong enough for that. And also what they do, they have, let me get something. I put that block there just kind of for demonstration purposes. But if you imagine the winch pulling up on the back of this deck, it will rise up until that block strikes that arm. And then the winch will be pulling up the entire mower deck. And that would work. That would do what I'm kind of wanting to do. The problem is that these little Heim joints, they're not exactly designed to have side loads like that. They might be all right. I don't know. I guess I just have to try it for a season and see what breaks. But I think that's what I'm going to end up going with. I'm going to do the way that the GE does it. I'll move these arms. I'll get rid of these, get rid of this whole far bar thing. Move these arms out so that they're square with the frame. I was just trying to think about where I could have little bars to run into these lower links to keep it from moving like that. Like I said, on the GE, their pivot is way back there, so they've got a lot more leverage that the bars on their frame hit. Because if I did it right here, I wouldn't have hardly any leverage at all. And likewise, if I had it on the mower deck, there wouldn't really be any leverage there either. So I don't know. I'm gonna first thing I'm gonna do is just get rid of all this. That's a shame that's not gonna work, because it does actually look really cool. I like how it looks, and that's, you know, sort of important. But I don't know. I'll noodle around with this for a little while and let you know. And then I thought, let's just try some different stuff here. Somebody just commented on one of my YouTube videos, said, why don't you just do like a 3-point attachment? At least I think that's what he meant. Just do like a 3-point. And I said, well, there's a couple reasons for that. One of them, it's kind of been done. So it's, you know, sort of simple. You just copy what somebody else has done. Most importantly is I just enjoy doing this stuff. Just trying to come up with something a little bit different, a little outside of the box. Work on the problems as they come up, and try and work out solutions, because it's a learning thing. I'm not a mechanical engineer or any kind of stuff. I just try things basically the hard way, as you can tell. But in the spirit of just trying things, I thought, before I go ripping all these stuff apart, how about just take this little bar, instead of having it pivot down there, put it right there, and then just weld in a little piece of scrap to keep it from moving and see what happens. And that has made a tremendous difference. That has, I won't say it's solved my problems, but it's certainly better. Watch this. I did this last time. Yeah, stay right there. So yes, that has removed all my binding situations. And if I grab over here, I don't have hardly any side-to-side movement. So this has kind of fixed all my problems, I think. At least it's a whole lot better than it was. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that this top bar would actually work better if that top bar was higher? Could that top bar be at that second position? That'd be actually a really easy thing to try. You know, again, if I had computer model, 3D modeling on the computer, that would make all this much easier. But I don't, so here I am. I'm going to keep playing with it. And then I thought, let's just see what happens. I got to be a little tender here, because none of my welds are particularly strong. They're just maybe strong tack welds, I guess. So I think I already did this once, so I know that it kind of works, but we're gonna go drive around a little bit more. You can fast forward through all this if you think it's boring, but I think it's kind of neat. What I did notice is that the deck seems to stay pretty solid to the ground. Like I said, I got to be a little bit careful here. We'll just put her in second. No reason to go too fast here. What I'm seeing is, this is just following my terrain. It's not like super aggressive terrain or anything, but it's just sort of following it pretty nicely, actually. As good as anything else, I think. I do have a bit of a rise here. We're going to drive up this to see what happens, but I haven't actually tried this, so we're just going to go straight up that. And it just did kind of what it would expect it to do. Look at that, it even sort of tracks down. So, I think without even meaning to, I kind of found a solution. So that's pretty cool. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make better, hold on. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make these better, make it look cooler. But that did exactly what I was hoping it would do. That just followed the terrain great. Wow, I'm quite pleased with that. So that's good. So I'm gonna make those look cooler. Those look nicer. And yeah, and weld it a little bit more rigid, and then take this thing down the driveway to the slope that I'm most concerned about, and see how it does. All right, I want to wrap this up. I went to work today. Let's go check that out real quick. Came into work today, Sunday. Need to make some more casters. On my little test drive, oh, that's still hot. Yeah, I need some casters in the back, so just came in here, whipped up a couple of these real quick. They're real simple. It's just some 1.5 inch, 1.5 inch flat bar, and just kind of figured out where that center pivot needs to be, roughly in the middle of the little wheel there. And then that's a 37-degree angle. That's just what casters are. So there you go, 37. And while I'm here at work, in case anybody was wondering, what does this incredibly attractive, hilarious, and charming man do for a living? I work at a place called RJE Machinery in Clifton, Tennessee. And we make the machines that make boxes. This is the machine I'm currently working on. It's the last section of a much larger machine that takes a raw piece of flat cardboard, we call it paper, and cuts it, sizes it, puts little creases in it so you can fold up the flaps, cuts the little slots out of the side so that there are flaps to fold, folds those flaps over and glues them all together, and dumps it out on this thing. Eventually there'll be some conveyors in there, and the paper will come in this way. It'll all be folded, and where that hole is right there, there'll be a stack of, say, 15 flat packed boxes. And whenever it gets that tall, there'll be a little pusher, and it'll push it out onto some conveyors right here, and those conveyors will put it out onto another set of conveyors that'll end up going to a strapping machine that puts a piece of plastic around it. But this is the first section of that. We're looking at the outfeed side of it, but this is where the flat pieces of paper come in, and just one chunk chunk from the bottom feeds from the bottom, and it goes through here. Then it goes through the doohickey that sizes it and chops the flaps. And then there's three print sections on this one. Yeah, 3 print sections on this one. And then there's also a section that stamps, like the little hand holds, like you can put your hand in there to pick the box up. Anyway, that's what we're working on right now. And this is another thing that I make. And all these paper factories, they've always got to trim boxes down to size, and sometimes it doesn't make sense if their operation doesn't need an entire machine to do this, where they can just have a guy stand here with a big old tall stack of cardboard and just push it through a big bandsaw. That's what this is here. Just runs on little tractor tires, trailer tires, and yeah, and all these pieces come from raw materials just over there in a metal stack. We get them in and cut them out and weld them together, and that's the frame for another bandsaw. And yeah, it's a pretty cool job. I can't give them enough credit for letting me come in here on weekends, sort of unsupervised, and come and get stuff, make stuff. They got lathes and mills and all kinds of stuff, and of course I write down all the stuff that I take. But all right, I'm pretty much done here, so I'm gonna head back to the house and see if I can't get this thing going. All right. Yeah, well, that's what I did. Made some casters and some other stuff, but I got some little bars, welded them on. I got 2 different positions here. That one's at 4 inches, that's at 5 inches. I don't think it really make any difference. The 5-inch position just makes that top bar horizontal, like level with the ground. I don't think it matters. But here's the deal. This works. This works really great. It follows the ground great. It does everything. I even drove it down to the end of the driveway where I've got a real steep section where my driveway and the road sort of meet, and it did great. It did exactly what I wanted to do. I got no complaints whatsoever, other than it looks stupid. I mean, yeah, that works, but it looks really dumb. The pins are kind of cool. If I take those pins out, as it sits now, I can tilt this deck up almost 90 degrees. I get into a little bit of a binding with the forearms, but yeah, that's pretty neat. And I've also ruled out linear actuator. There's just no way for that to happen. I could have a linear actuator and it would drop it all the way down to this level, but that'd be as low as it could go, and it wouldn't be able to follow a train, so that's no good. If you're as pedantic about this crap as I am, you can see that the right side arm is splayed out a little bit further than the left side. I need to address that. And I don't know. I just think it looks stupid. It's 100% functional, but it's not very cool. I don't know. That's it for now. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.